The first one.
Sorry. Yeah, they had some kind of ball, but yeah, it was really fun.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin. So, 11:30 on the dot. Welcome to the Women's Republican Club of New Orleans. Today is August 21st, and we welcome everyone. And we thank y'all for coming here and being with us today. We're going to call this meeting to order. My name is Martha Huckabee. I am the president of the Women's Republican Club of New Orleans. And we come together once a month on the third Friday, except for November, and then the month of Mardi Gras, and then 2 months in the summer. But we're always here trying to invite candidates and, open up our club for those who want to introduce themselves to our members and to the city. We are live streaming here with YouTube, so we thank you. We're going to open prayer with our chaplain, Helen Barnett. Please stand. And the Pledge of Allegiance, said by all.
O Lord, our God, we come to you today with faith in your love for us and trust in your desire for our well-being. We thank you for the many ways we feel your presence in our lives as we experience the joys and sorrows of daily life. All that you have created is good. You are our God, and we are your wobbly people. Be with us this day as our conversations may give rise to the fears and angers we have over our nation's failures. I name the most egregious here: political persecution of the innocent and weaponization of our judicial system, fraud in our welfare programs, politicization of our medical system, wars we cannot afford, deceit and self-serving of our elected leaders, illegal invasion. Open our eyes, Lord, to the ways we as individuals may participate in these transgressions against justice, and give us a humble heart seeking forgiveness, not afraid to make changes. We call on you, Lord, as we remember your word in 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. With honor and pleasure, I want to introduce our first guest speaker, Ed Tarpley, also a J6 attorney. So Ed Tarpley Jr. is an attorney in Alexandria, Louisiana, who served as district attorney for the 35th Judicial District, Grant Parish, Louisiana, from 1991 to 1997. He graduated from LSU Law School in 1997 and has practiced law in Louisiana for 44 years. Ed was co-consular for Stewart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers, in one of the first major January 6 cases to go trial in Washington, D.C. in September of 2022. In January 2024, Ed filed an amicus curiae brief in the case of Fisher versus United States on behalf of the former Feds Group Freedom Foundation. In May 2024, Ed also filed a brief with the Attorney General and 9 DAs calling for the investigation and prosecution of Dr. Anthony Fauci for COVID hospital protocol deaths in Louisiana. Ed is a leader in the pro-life movement and served as president of the CENLA Pregnancy Center in Alexandria, Louisiana in 2022-2023. He has served on the steering committee for the Louisiana Governor's Prayer Breakfast, the Board of Governors for the Louisiana State Bar Association, and the Board of Trustees for Louisiana College. He's a member of Louisiana Republican State Central Committee and has been selected as a delegate to the 1992, 2016, and 2024 Republican National Conventions. Ed is a defender of the cause of liberty and a frequent speaker on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. He was a leading advocate and spokesman for the successful statewide campaign in 2018 to adopt the constitutional amendment, which restored the unanimous criminal jury verdict in Louisiana and repealed a Jim Crow law dating back to 1880. In 2018, Ed received the Kevin Kane Justice Award from Louisiana Family Forum, and his commitment to justice and in passage of Senate Bill 243, requiring unanimous jurors in Louisiana. In 2018, he also received the Chief Justice Pascal F. Calagero Jr. Lifetime Achievement Award by the Louisiana Criminal Defense Lawyers. Please let's welcome Ed Tarpley.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with y'all today. I was the Grant Parish District Attorney from 1991 to 1997. And believe it or not, I just became a candidate for that office again. Okay.
Yeah.
After a 30-year sabbatical, I decided to return to my old job. So in any event, we qualified 2 weeks ago. So we're on the campaign trail now. I know there aren't many votes from Grant Parish in this room today. Unless anybody wants to change their registration, you still have time. But I was invited by Martha to speak to y'all some months ago, and I'm so glad to be here today to be with you. We don't have long, so let me move quickly. There's so many things I could talk about. So 15 minutes, you can only scratch the surface. But first of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be your guest speaker. One of the highlights of my professional career as a lawyer was to serve as one of the attorneys for Stewart Rhodes in the January 6th seditious conspiracy trial. That took place in September, October, and November of 2022 in Washington, D.C. So that was quite an experience, and it was amazing to be on the front row of history, just the history being made in Washington, D.C. This was the marquee trial of all of the January 6th cases. And so the Lord allowed me to become a part of it, and that's a great story in itself, but I'll have to tell you that another time. But in any event, it was a privilege to be a lawyer from Louisiana, to be in D.C. Mr. Rhodes had two other attorneys in Dallas, Texas, and so the three of us defended him. And then there were five defendants in that particular trial, and there were a total of eight defense lawyers. And one of our defense lawyers, and I got to know all of them well, and they were all wonderful people. But the lawyer I sat right next to was one of the attorneys for Kelly Meggs from Florida, and he was Stanley Woodward. Stanley is now the number 3 lawyer in the Department of Justice. He's now the Associate Attorney General. So Stanley has gone on to bigger and better things. And anyway, we have great hopes for Stanley in the future, a great young man and a great lawyer. And Julie Haller was his the other attorney representing Mr. Meggs, and she just took a position also with the Justice Department in the Civil Rights Division under Harmeet Dillon. So in any event, it was just a fabulous opportunity to be there and to get to know all these people, but also to see what the Department of Justice did as a weaponized Department of Justice. Because under the Biden administration, there's no doubt about the fact that the Department of Justice was weaponized against the American citizens and all the January 6th defendants in particular. As you know, many of the January 6th defendants were prosecuted for trespassing and these sorts of what would have been minor offenses. But, people's lives were destroyed as a result of what the federal government did. So we have to understand that everything that happened with the January 6th trial was premeditated by the government. They wanted to make sure that they went out of their way to sanction anyone that came there at the Capitol on that particular day. Of course, the true story by January 6th has never really been told. And that is because the January 6th committee was a fraudulent committee. It wasn't really formed to get to the truth. It was formed to defame Donald Trump. That's what the purpose of the January 6th committee was. And we all know about how it was constructed and everything. But one of the things that I saw the Department of Justice create a false narrative, basically to propagate a lie. It was the most amazing thing to sit there and see this happen before our very eyes. They were saying that our defendants were the leaders of the attack on the Capitol, which was just totally false. I mean, it's like a figment of somebody's imagination that you could come up with this. And that Stuart Rhodes was somehow the general of all the forces that day, which was totally preposterous. Stuart Rhodes never went in the Capitol. He never committed any violence. He never destroyed any property. All he did was spend time on his cell phone, which he couldn't get through to anyone on because the cell phones weren't working that day on January 6th. And so in any event, he was basically a scapegoat. All these people were scapegoats. And so there's no doubt in my mind that there were powers that wanted this to take place. They wanted some sort of disaster to occur at the Capitol. I mean, they denied President Trump's request for National Guard troops for additional security. Mayor Muriel Bowser said she didn't like the optics. She didn't want the soldiers on the street because it would look bad. Okay. Nancy Pelosi absolutely did not want it to happen. She bears a great responsibility for what happened. But guess what? The January 6th committee never questioned Nancy Pelosi, nor did they ever question FBI Director Chris Wray. Chris Wray, he's the one that would never answer Rand Paul's question or Ted Cruz's question about how many FBI agents were really there on January 6th. Well, we never got that from Chris Wray, but we did find out later because Clay Higgins kept digging. I think the number came up to 240 federal assets, I think just with the FBI, but we know that there were other people there from other agencies. The bottom line is that what happened there was a terrible thing. People were there at the Capitol to protest legally. All the demonstrations were approved by the Park Service, and that what happened at the Capitol was essentially a riot, that things got out of hand, and there are lots of questions about what happened, why it happened, who started this, how it went the way it went. But one thing we know for sure is what you've been told by the Biden administration and by those that were in the Biden administration was not true. And so Mr. Rhodes, Stuart Rhodes, was one of the ones that bore the brunt of that as a scapegoat. The trial lasted 2 months. He was charged with 5 counts. He was acquitted of 2 counts. He was convicted on 3. He got 18 years in federal prison. He wound up serving 3 years. And if President Trump had not gotten elected, he would still be in prison today. All of them would still be in prison today for something that was false, the false narrative that was propagated by the Justice Department, that these people came there to overthrow the government and engage in sedition, was false. That did not happen. And we know it did not happen. So I got to sit there as a lawyer of over 40 years experience to see our government, the federal government, propagate a lie to convict these men and put them in prison. It was a terrible thing that happened. Thank God for President Trump, because he pardoned them, all of them, except for 15 who took commutations. And as it's turned out, the Justice Department recently filed a motion to vacate the convictions, which the Court of Appeals did in our case and Mr. Rhodes's case. and the trial judge, Judge Mehta, just 2 weeks ago, signed the order dismissing the charges against Stewart Rhodes. So all of our clients, even the ones that didn't get pardons, now they have a clean record. And Stewart Rhodes, I talked to him just 2 weeks ago. Stewart and I talk quite frequently, and he had just got approved to get his VA benefits returned. Praise the Lord. And he'll be able to own a firearm. He'll be able to cast his ballot as all American citizens have the right to do. So praise the Lord. That came out great. So in any event, I had a chance to be there and see what can happen when the wrong people are in charge of our government, when the wrong people are in charge of the Department of Justice. Fortunately, now we have great people in charge. Todd Blanche, I think, is going to be a great attorney general. And I know, like I just described, I know some of the people working there. We have wonderful people working there. Let me say quickly that there are many issues that we face today. And, as a former prosecutor and hopefully a prosecutor again, it's important that prosecutors exercise their office with judgment and compassion, that the job of the prosecutor is to seek justice. To seek justice. Your job is to protect the innocent as well as convict the guilty. In other words, you're not the attorney for the police. And we support the police, absolutely. But you're not their attorney. The police make mistakes too. You're there to look at the evidence. And what does the evidence show? Does the evidence show that someone should be prosecuted or not? And if it doesn't show that, then guess what you do? You exercise the power of discretion and you choose not to prosecute that person. That's what our justice system is built upon. Why is that? Because we enjoy the presumption of innocence. Yes, thank you. The presumption of innocence. That's what we enjoy. So we should always remember that. That's one of the foundational core beliefs of our justice system, that we are innocent until proven guilty. And why is that? It's because liberty is what we have in our country. God gave us liberty, not the government. We're born with liberty. Liberty is part of who we are as human beings in America. Not everybody enjoys liberty all over the world, but we do because we enjoy the blessings of God in our country. So as a district attorney, you have a great obligation. Your obligation is to protect the citizens, everyone. You're not there, again, just to convict the guilty. All of that is the major thing that you do, because you do prosecute people who have violated the law. And you have an obligation and duty to do that. But in doing that, you have to be fair about how you handle the law and the facts. You apply the law to the facts. And does the evidence allow you to go forward with the prosecution? And if it does, you do it. And if it doesn't, you don't. And that takes courage sometimes to do that. Because, for some people, it's a whole lot easier to sit back. We're just going to charge what the police charge. We're not going to do our own investigation. Or we're going to go with what we got. No. That's not what you do. The district attorney, he's there to evaluate the evidence and review the case and make a decision about whether to go forward or not. And of course, that's why we have the grand jury. The grand jury is an investigative body. And if you have a tough case, guess what you do? You take the case to the grand jury. Let 12 people, good and true, listen to the evidence and let them decide. What do you think? You think we should prosecute, or you think we should let this case go? And you know what? I have found that grand juries are great. It's a great institution, and they have great people, and they listen very carefully, and they make good decisions. So the fact of the matter is, a district attorney is an enormously powerful and privileged position, because you stand at the center of the criminal justice system, whether someone's prosecuted or not. So in any event, it would be an honor and privilege to serve again as the Grant Parish District Attorney, and I hope that I get to do that. But I will say this, that as a lawyer, I've had a chance to do a lot of great things. One of the things that we did 2 years ago, and I will share this with you if I can lay these papers to the side. Martha, you need a bigger podium. But at least for Ed Tarpley, because I always come with all my stuff. Anyway, which I never get to, but I still have it. In 2024, I had a chance to file this brief in support of the request for criminal investigation and prosecution of Anthony Fauci. We filed that with the Attorney General and with 9 district attorneys in Louisiana. In those parishes, in those districts, there was a person who died as a result of the hospital protocol. And what that means is that the hospital protocol was what was set in place by Dr. Fauci and all the people in the medical establishment. And it required the hospital to treat a patient a certain way. Now, this is really dystopian stuff. This is really out of 1984, George Orwell. Okay, we have lived it. We have lived it. What happened in the COVID pandemic was right out of 1984. I'm telling you, because of what the federal government said, and Anthony Fauci is at the top of this pyramid. Deborah Birx and all the others are in there too, but he's at the top of the pyramid. They sent down from on high the rules to the hospitals that you had to treat COVID patients a certain way. And one of the things you had to do, you gave them remdesivir. Yeah. Remdesivir was and is a deadly drug. Yeah. And we know that it killed tens of thousands of people in the United States of America. And guess what? You could not refuse to take the medicine. Wow. Once you were in the ER, once they had their hands around you, you had to take remdesivir. People went to court to ask the judge to allow the hospital to treat them with ivermectin. And in the cases where the people won their case, the patients lived. And then the cases where they lost their case, the patients died. They died because remdesivir was deadly. In fact, they have a nickname for remdesivir. They call it run, death is near. Run, death is near. Have you heard that? Okay, so let me just say, so what happened here is I worked with 2 lawyers in Florida. Rachel Rodriguez, she just ran for governor of Florida. She didn't win, but she was a great candidate. Rachel Rodriguez and her firm, the Byries Law Firm, they put together this brief. I signed on to the brief. I wish I could claim credit for it, but I can't. But I did. But my name is on it. So if your name is on, the name is on it. You get the credit and the blame if your name is on it. So my name is on it, and I'm proud to have filed it. It simply asked the DAs in 9 districts to investigate Dr. Fauci is what it did. I mean, obviously, the decision whether to prosecute is the DA's decision, and he bases that on the evidence. So we're not prejudging the case. We're just saying we think the evidence is there, and we think the statutes are there, which allow them to prosecute Anthony Fauci in Louisiana. Now, it also went to the Attorney General. I've had a couple of discussions with Attorney General Merle. I talked to her in the summer of 2024. At that time, she said, I don't think I can do this because we simply don't have the resources, the staff to take on something this large. That was in 2024. Well, as you may know, just a couple of weeks ago, she announced that they were going to look at it. After all, I say, praise the Lord. I did reach out to her and tell her I was really pleased that she had decided to do that. And she responded and said that they were going forward and didn't know exactly how they were going to handle it, but they were moving in that direction. Now, the Attorney General of Florida has launched an investigation, and I think a couple of other attorneys general around the country. So we have some movement with the state attorneys general. I'm just saying that this is something that is important to me and dear to my heart because people died in Louisiana because of what Anthony Fauci and all those other people in Washington did. Remdesivir was a deadly drug. Ivermectin was a miracle drug. They suppressed it. They are still suppressing it. And I'm telling you right now that ivermectin was a miracle drug. Why did they suppress it? They suppressed it because, let me tell you something, the emergency use authorization, which the government handed down, which allowed all these other things to take place, could not have been approved had there been an acceptable treatment. And ivermectin was an acceptable treatment. And if they had used that, guess what? They would not have needed the emergency use authorization, the EUA, that's really important, and they wouldn't have been able to do all these other things. So in any event, the law is very complicated with regard to what they can do in this federal, the federal drug regime and the Department of Public Health and how they worked all that out. But one thing's for sure, they are protected. The vaccine makers are protected from suit. All these people are protected because of a thing called the PrEP Act, which means that all these people that died as a result of remdesivir, they cannot sue currently for damages because these people are immune. Immunity. It's really wrong. So let me hit a couple of things. I've got to close.
You're good, you're good.
Okay, I don't want to go too long.
You're good.
Okay, so you got to keep me on track here. What happened in COVID was so diabolical and just dystopian. I use the word dystopian. Okay, it was because you couldn't go see your loved one in the nursing home who was dying. You could not have a funeral and go and meet at the graveyard, or maybe you could meet at the graveyard. That might have been the only place you could meet. But the little children had to wear the mask. Okay, the fact that they couldn't go to school was that in of itself was diabolical. We didn't need to do that. All of these things. The fact that you had to wear these masks everywhere. That was stupid. It was stupid from the beginning. From the beginning. I mean, look, I'm not a physician. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a lawyer. Okay, but the point is, this is like, germs are microscopic, right? I mean, these things are floating around there, microscopic. You think a little cloth, mask was going to save you from that? No, we all knew it was stupid. I mean, we all knew it was stupid. We wore them anyway. We went right along with it. We wore them anyway. Okay. Let me just say that a couple things. They shut the churches down and they kept Walmart open. Okay. They shut the churches down. They kept Costco open. Come on in, guys. Come on in. Y'all have a seat. Come on in. Come on. Yeah, they shut all these places down. They shut the churches down. They kept the liquor stores open.
And the strip clubs.
Well, the point was, I mean, that tells you right there what we're dealing with. All right. And so the fact of the matter is that all of that was unnecessary. So I have to say, Pastor John MacArthur in California, great John MacArthur, he's dead now. He died about a year ago. One of my favorite pastors of all time. He fought to keep his church open in California. And he hired Harmony Dillon, who now is the chief of civil rights. She went to the Supreme Court, I think, 4 or 5 times on his church, and she kept his church open. Okay.
Yeah.
I asked her about it at the Republican National Convention in 2024, and she said he was one of the greatest men she had ever met, and that what they did at Grace Church in California was absolutely incredible. These were incredible people, and it was an honor for her to represent them and fight to keep the church open. And that's what happened. How many churches closed? Okay, my church closed. So many churches closed. All our churches closed.
Forget Tony Spell.
Let me tell you something. No, I'm getting to him. I'm getting to him. Let me say something. I'm not closing again.
That's right.
If it ever comes back, we're not going to a church that closes.
No,
Okay, we're staying open
that's
from
right.
now on, because we know that the First Amendment does not become ineffective because a virus is loose in the land.
That's right.
It's just not. And we have to stand up and fight for that. And Tony Spell in Baton Rouge is a great man, and he did fight for it, and he won in Baton Rouge. Praise the Lord. So we're excited about what Tony Spell did. Let me tell you something. I'm going to close with this. Of all the issues that are out there right now, and we talked about the weaponized Department of Justice, we talked about the COVID tyranny. COVID tyranny, that's what it was. It was tyranny. All that just took place. Look. I haven't forgotten about it. Have you forgotten about it? No, sir. We're not forgetting about it, okay?
No, never.
If people are coming here and want to run for office,
No.
you need to tell them, have you forgotten about it? These people need to be held accountable. They must be held accountable. We cannot let it go. People died as a
Right.
result of what the government did. Our government did that to us.
That's
And
right.
we have an obligation to see to it that people are held accountable.
That's
Now,
right.
some people say, oh, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Let's go. No. It's not time to move on. There are people that died as a result of what the government did that didn't have to die. Okay?
And they
So-
died alone.
And they died alone. They died awful, horrible deaths. Okay, let me tell you something. That is a disgrace. That is a stain on the history of our country.
Yes, it
Did
is.
we allow this to happen?
Yes, we did.
We cannot let that happen again.
So,
Let me tell you something that's going on. It has to do with immigration. Immigration, to me, is the greatest issue that we face because it's an issue that no one wants to talk about. And I can talk about it all day. But let me tell you real quick. There are two kinds of immigration. There's illegal immigration and there's legal immigration. Now let's think about it. Most of what you hear about on the news for years and years and years is protecting the border, secure the border. That has to do with illegal immigration. And we know that probably 20 to 25 million people came in under the Biden administration. It was an invasion. It was treason. It really was treason that we allowed these people to come in from all over the world. And now we don't know where they are. And now we can't get them out. I love President Trump. But it looks like they're not going to do the mass deportations. And that is gut wrenching to me. We have got to send these people back home. The 25 million that came under Biden need to go home today.
Yeah.
Okay. They need to go home today. Okay. Now, we already had probably 25 or 30 million here already before they got here. All right. All of them need to go home. If you're here illegally, you're here illegally. Guess what? That's a violation of the law. Guess what? You need to go home. But in any event, it's complicated. The lawyers, the immigration law, it's difficult now. But look, President Trump, he's got to rise to the occasion. We've got to have mass deportations. Yeah. We have got to do it or we're going to lose the country. Now, look, what about legal immigration? I contend, and it's my argument, that legal immigration is the worst form of immigration. Why is that? Because the legal immigration system is on autopilot. Do you know that 1 million people get green cards every year? Every year, 1 million people get green cards. And if you get a green card, what is a green card? It means you're a lawful permanent resident. LPR, once you get one, you can send back to wherever you came from. The Mali Republic, Nigeria, okay? Bangladesh. We need more people from Bangladesh, okay? Let's hear it from Bangladesh, okay? Here's the deal. You can send back and get your spouse. I think that's great. You can also send back and get your children. Great. Okay, guess what? They get to come over and they'll get green cards. But look, in 5 years, if you want to, you can become a citizen. And when you become a citizen, here's what happens. Then you can send back and get your parents, your brother and your sister, your aunts and your uncles, and everybody else. And it is a constant stream of people coming. And when they get here, they'll get green cards. And then when they become citizens, they can send back. I mean, did you see how this goes on and on forever? We have got to have a moratorium. So if you ever see Steve Scalise, if you ever get to see Steve Scalise, tell him, Steve, would you please support shutting down legal immigration? Yeah. We have got to have relief. We need a moratorium. Why? Because these people are not assimilating. They're not assimilating. There's too many of them. They're not learning our language. Nope. They're not embracing our history. They're not adopting our culture and our customs. They're doing none of that. That's right. It is a disaster for our country. It will spell the end of our nation. And let me tell you something. What about the H-1B visas? Lord, we can talk about that all night. They have taken away all the STEM jobs. Kids graduating from college can't get the jobs anymore. Why? Because Indians have taken the jobs. Why the Indians? Because they have gamed the system. 70% of all the H-1Bs come from India. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of people. And when they get here, they get into companies and they only hire other Indians. They fire all the Americans. They only hire other Indians. Now, this is kind of an uncomfortable topic. But that's why we need to talk about it.
That's right.
Because if we don't do something, we are losing our country. Now, guess what? They have 1.4 billion people in India. 1.4 billion people. If 100 million Indians moved to America, it would change America forever. But in India, they wouldn't miss them at all. So do you see what we're looking at here? You see the enormity of this? Now look, I'm going to close with this. Mark Wayne Mullen just became the Secretary of Homeland Security. Okay, I think it was a great mistake. I think he was the worst possible person that could have gotten this position. But I'm hoping that he will rise to the occasion. So we need to pray for Mark Wayne. Come on, Mark Wayne, you're from Oklahoma. Surely you can see what we should do here, the right thing and the wrong thing. Let me tell you what happened. He just said the other day that 900,000 people were naturalized in the last 12 months. 900,000 people. What does that mean? 900,000 people have become citizens. This is happening to us every year. Guess what? When they become naturalized, what can they do? They can do one thing that you and I can do. And what is that? What can they do? They can vote. They can vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we are losing our country in real time if we don't turn this around. So I will end by this as saying, look, if we remain free, it will be because of groups like this. It will be because you people right here, you are the people that will preserve liberty and freedom in America. If we survive. Little groups like this all over the nation, in Ohio, in Oklahoma, in Kansas, wherever they are, there are people just like you everywhere. If we remain free, if we preserve liberty and we preserve the Constitution in our country, it will be because of what you're doing here today. I want to tell you this. We have a great challenge. I know that God is on the throne. That Jesus is at the right hand. That he hears our prayer. He blessed America. He formed America. All that we have is due to what God has done for us. And we must fight to save it. We must fight to save it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you today that we have this great privilege of fighting to save America. And that is the true calling. Will you fight to save America? Thank you so much.
Any questions and answers?
Oh, yes. Q&A. Q&A. I ran up with my Q&A time real quick.
You're good.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So a dear friend of mine is sitting in prison right now, and I don't know if you followed this case, George Peterson, who had the suppressor, and now they've made suppressors protected by the Second Amendment, but yet he's still sitting in prison. And so my question is are you familiar with that case?
He's
Do
a
you have
local.
any insight on that?
I am familiar about the suppressor case, and
Okay.
George Peterson.
we'll have to see where it goes. I mean, I think that, the Biden Justice Department really was on steroids with ATF for push the kind of liberal ideology in ATF at that time, and they were really hammering down on suppressors. The stocks. I can't think of the name of it now, but
The bump
the
stock.
bump stock, right? The bump stock. I mean, all these other things were happening out there, and it was part of the liberal ideology to basically reduce our Second Amendment rights. So, the Second Amendment is a continual battle. It's a continual battle. We have to fight this all the time. So, I just mentioned three main areas, but I understand that's a continual battle. So, I don't know all the details about that case. I know that it's a serious case, and my prayer is that he will be vindicated.
Amen.
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't two out early this week? 30 days, when's the moment?
What is? Tell me that. What report?
Mullen.
Colin Thomas, it's reports the Thursday. Mark Wayne, you talking
Oh yeah. What was that report going to be about? Oh, about the threats to the election. I have not. Obviously, it hadn't been released. Mark Wayne Mullen hasn't said anything. Well, look, with all due respect to Secretary Mullen, I don't know him personally, but I'm just not very impressed. And I think the president made a mistake there. He should have appointed somebody who was a firebrand on this issue. In other words, like Greg Bovino, for instance. Okay, Greg Bovino, he would have been a great secretary. Anybody, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
not leave out the money that these hospitals were paid.
yeah.
That they killed.
No question about it. It was all about the money. It was all about the money. Did you know that during that whole season, all that time period, there were no cases of flu in the country? The flu was eradicated for 1 year. No flu. All right. Thank you. Love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's always refreshing to have some truth. The truth will set you free. Okay, our next speaker, we're going to move along. Thank you, Ed. We appreciate you. Hope you enjoy your lunch with us, and thank you so much. So our next speaker is a candidate for judge, Sal Brocato. We thank you so much for First Parish Court Division A. Sal grew up in the Upper Ninth Ward, New Orleans East and Gentilly. He graduated from Brother Martin High School. Brother Martin, my son Dawson. In 1988, Sal attended SLU for 2 years and then entered the police academy with NOPD, earning his post certification. After marrying Lisa Casanova Brocato, they moved to Jefferson Parish, where he transferred to the JPSO and retired after 12 years of service. They have one son, Dominic Brocato. In law enforcement, Sal has served under 2 police chiefs, 6 sheriffs, and an attorney general with 4 different agencies. He graduated from UNO with a BS in business management and from Southern University Law Center with his law degree. Sal has maintained his law practice in Metairie for 27 years, representing close to 4,000 clients in civil, criminal, and traffic matters. He's taken 51 cases to trial before judges and juries and in both state and federal court. Additionally, he has handled dozens of appeals on the federal and state level. Sal has gained valuable judicial experience as a traffic hearing officer in First Parish Court. He was appointed by both elected judges of that court to preside over the traffic docket. During those 9 appointments, Sal has handled over 16,500 docket cases and presided over 10 trials. In 2023, he qualified for both RSCC and RPEC in Jefferson Parish, winning both elections. He recently resigned from those positions to run for judge. Sal has been a part-time coach at his alma mater, Brother Martin, in the football and powerlifting programs for the past 17 years. For the past 9 years, he volunteered his time with the Sudden Impact Program sponsored by Louisiana State Police and LCMC in 14 mock trials as a judge and prosecutor at local high schools to educate students about the risk of texting while driving and DWI. Let's welcome Sal Brocato.
Thank you so much. First of all, welcome to Metairie. This is my hometown for the last 30 years. You picked a great restaurant. Of course, I'm Italian, so I love the Italian. But yeah, thanks again. So I really have to go back. My first connection to the Republican Party was in 1988. Does everybody remember what happened in 1988? The National Convention, only ever national presidential convention, was in New Orleans. And the reason I was there, my grandmother, by the name of Jenny Martinez, I don't know if that's a name that y'all remember. She was a 15-year national committee woman for our state party. And she was very instrumental in getting that convention in New Orleans. And it hadn't been back. So I know she worked hard to do it. But as a teenager to walk in the Superdome during that week, it was just awesome. I mean, to see the local Republicans coming together as hosts, so to speak, and then the Republicans on the state level and the federal level. So the full circle moment for me is 3 years ago, I have an opportunity to run for both the Central Committee and the RPAC. I have to admit, I didn't know what I was doing. I really had to educate myself on what was going on. But I threw my hat in the ring and won both of those seats. And like she had mentioned, I had to resign both. And my successor, Debbie Terrio, hey Debbie, stepped up and has done a tremendous job. And we were fortunate that we had the Central Committee meeting here in Kenner last week. So just to give you an idea about how the Central Committee works, we usually have quarterly meetings. 3 of them are always in Baton Rouge, and they always pick another host city. So it's been Alexandria, it's been, I have to spread it around up in Monroe. So I was happy I had an opportunity to go speak before my former colleagues, and it happened to be in Kenner, so that was great. And look, the RPAC, y'all familiar with it, it's a little bit different. The Central Committee, you have, I think it's over close to 200 members from all around the state. But the RPAC, their goals are a little bit different. So doing that for 2 years, we have local people who are running for office, anywhere from school board to judgeships, whatever, who come before that committee. and they give a nomination or, say, look, we want to hear from these people. They usually get 5 minutes. We take a secret ballot and they get the Jefferson Parish endorsement. And it's important because we have some groups that don't want to do endorsement, and I get that. But the RPAC is so important because they listen to those Republican candidates. If there's one Republican, more times than not, they're going to get the endorsement. But if there's two, actually the meeting is tomorrow for our local races, they really get to hear from the candidates. And they're looking for Republican values and also the qualifications for that office. And I think it's so important. And we take pride in giving those endorsements. And I know the candidates have pride in that. So it's really important. Just to tell you, I know she talked a little bit about my journey, but it's so important to me as a 27-year practitioner to have judges who not only have great Republican values, but two who are qualified. I mean, look, there's a lot of judgeships going on right now. We have 5 open judgeships in Tammany. There was 4 open judgeships in the Jefferson Parish. We need qualified judges. And for me, and I'm sure Ed will agree with me, qualification for a judge, you better have been in a courtroom. I see people running for a judge who have had 1 trial in their career or 0 trials or just a handful of trials. And more importantly, it's about having that experience of relevancy. For example, if you asked me to run for juvenile court, that's not me. If you wanted me a bankruptcy judge, that's not me. This particular court, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. This is what we call as lawyers a court of limited jurisdiction. So we have, I think it's 45 district courts in the state of Louisiana. They just have general jurisdiction, no limit on case values, civil and criminal. We also have courts like this, which I'm running for, is Parish Court. It's about 5 minutes from here. So Parish Court, we have 2 parish courts in Jefferson, and it's different in other parishes. But 2 judges sit for the East Bank, 2 judges sit for the West Bank. And what we handle in that court are jurisdictional limits for civil up to 50,000, misdemeanor criminal matters, including first and second offense DWIs, traffic matters, and they also handle the appeals from our Justice of Peace. Justice of the Peace in Jefferson Parish, they handle evictions and small claims like that. So, they have a wide variety of cases to handle. With that, you need that type of experience. As a 27-year practitioner and a solo practitioner, I've tried 51 cases. Again, I should say, before judges, juries, and both state and federal court. But I've also practiced in 52 different courts in Louisiana. It's not 52 judges, 52 different courts. Because again, we have so many types of courts. The lowest level, we have Justice of the Peace. And at the highest level in Louisiana, we have the United States Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal. I practice in all 3 district federal courts and the United States Fifth Circuit. We have 5 courts of appeal. We obviously have the Supreme Court, all those district courts, but we also have city courts, mayor's courts, parish courts. They're all over the place. So my practice has really taken me everywhere. And what's important to me, I am seeking to replace a judge who's been on the bench for 30 years. And she has done a tremendous job. And I just felt like I had this calling. When she told me she wasn't going to run again, I knew it was a great opportunity for me to step up. I don't think there's too many people who have the unique background I have. With all the years in law enforcement, a practitioner, and also the time I've had on the bench as a traffic hearing officer, again, doing trial practice. As people do go to trial and traffic court, it happens. And I'm just excited about this opportunity to do that. Because to me, obviously, I know the law, I'm familiar with the law. But a big part about being a judge is running an efficient court. I'm very cognizant about the fact about police officers serving court. I've been there. Police officer comes off a midnight shift and they go to court the next morning with no sleep and they got to sit there for 4 or 5 hours. I never liked it as a policeman. So I'm very cognizant of that when I sat on the bench in traffic court, getting police officers in and out, and also hopefully I get elected November 3rd, having that same mindset. Because they're protecting us. They're not doing anything by sitting in court. They either should be with their family or back on the street protecting all of us. So again, that's really important to me. Also, the victims. This particular court has a lot of unrepresented parties. In civil matters, it's a lot of small claims, but in the criminal matters, you have so many people that are involved in those cases. You have, again, police officers, you have witnesses sometimes, but you also have victims. And to me, it's so important to run an efficient court, to get things going, to keep those dockets moving. And that's one of my focuses I really want to have. So I am so excited about this opportunity. Like I said, having a judge that's been there that long, these judgeships don't come open often. And I really felt the calling. It's going to be difficult for me. I have built my practice for 27 years. I'm 1 year out of law school, hung out my shingle and said, I'm going to take a chance. And I had some lean years. Those first 10 years, I didn't have any staff. Now I have 5. But I just take pride in what I've built. But I do have to walk away from it, but I'm okay with that because I really just want to step up and serve Jefferson Parish. And let me tell you, sitting on the traffic court bench, it's not just Jefferson Parish people that come to that court. I mean, I've seen attorneys from New Orleans, St. Tammany, St. Bernard. They're coming in to represent people. And then, of course, you could be from out of state. If you're driving through Jefferson Parish and you get stopped by a state trooper and given a ticket, you're coming to that court. So, yes, my electorate, so to speak, is the East Bank of Jefferson Parish. But that's not only the people we're serving. It's anybody that comes before that court. And that's what excites me. Thank you so much. I'd love to take any questions. Thank you. Please ask some questions. Yes. Yes.
One is, like,
The entire East Bank of Jefferson Parish.
okay,
So the way it's set up, like I said, first parish court where I'm running for, there's 2 judges. That covers the whole East Bank. So all the way from Old Metairie through Kent. Yeah, and then the second parish court is the West Bank. Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yes.
Second,
Go ahead.
I have read, I'm in a group called Constitution Boot Camp,
Okay.
which ironically started by George Peterson, who's sitting in federal prison right now. But in Constitution Boot Camp, I've read lots and lots and lots of cases and stories and things like that. And what I read at one time was that if any judge finds something to be a violation of the Constitution, that they can declare it a violation of the Constitution. It doesn't have to be a federal judge or a Supreme Court judge. It can be any judge. As a judge, will you be comfortable questioning or challenging constitutional violations if they come across your desk?
Let me just talk about parish court. So typically parish court, that's not something that's brought before it. But yes, and I've actually challenged something previously in the district court level. So of course, something that comes before you, typically it's the defendant that is bringing a motion before a judge. And if they're arguing the constitutionality of it, no doubt, then the judge has to rule on it. And that's something that's raised. Because as we know, the legislature makes the laws. The judges interpret the laws. And it happens sometimes, yes. There are situations when that's something that's brought before a court on whether something's constitutional, yeah. But typically it's done in the district court level. Yes. And of course, things like that, they go all the way up the chain. From the district court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, thank
Absolutely.
you. Okay.
Any other questions? Has anybody ever been to David Drop in West Battery?
Yes.
Okay. And typically that's the response. I like to tell people it's not just traffic court. If they say, oh, you wanted the traffic court, I'm like, well, that's where most people have their interaction with that court. But no, again, they do civil matters. And look, one of the things that is just heart-wrenching for me is DWIs. Okay. And we have a prosecutor right here. We have an opportunity at parish court because it's misdemeanors dealing with first and second offense DWIs. I've investigated DWIs as a police officer. Okay. I have represented people who were victims of DWIs in civil matters. So I understand about investigations of DWIs. And I can tell you this, when I got out of the police academy in 1993, I would say anywhere from 80 to 90% of the people getting arrested for DWIs were alcohol related. That has gone way down. One of the things she talked about, I'm involved with the Sudden Impact Program. Has anybody heard about the Sudden Impact Program? So it's a 3-part program in Louisiana. State Police, LCMC, which is a healthcare provider, they come to the high school and they actually bring wrecked cars and they create an accident involving an impaired driver. And it's a high school students. It's very impactful. And they make it real. I mean, you have a student hanging out the windshield with fake blood. And the trooper shows up and they do an investigation and then they arrest the person. Step number two is they bring them to LCMC. They want them to look at the morgue. They want them to look at the trauma unit to see where people come. And then the last step is we come in as attorneys and we do what's called a mock trial. So it's the back end of it. That person was arrested. And it's pretty impactful. I mean, they bring the person out in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. They put them at the defense table. And I've done this for 9 years or 14 trials. I'm probably on my third round with some of the local high schools. And sometimes I've been the judge, sometimes I've been the prosecutor. But, it's like the old saying, if it saves one life, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is because in Louisiana, you may or may not know, 17-year-olds are treated as adults. So in my court, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I may see some of these kids. And it's changed so much. We basically have state police tell us, what are you seeing on the street? What is the impairment? What is the intoxicant? We stopped saying drinking and driving. It's driving while intoxicated. Because I can tell you, there are so many intoxicants out there that young people are getting their hands on. For a while, a few years back, it was Mojo. So this was a synthetic marijuana. And people were dying from it. But it was impairing them. And they were literally selling it at a 7-Eleven under the counter. And it wasn't controlled. You don't know what's in it. Exactly. So now you have fentanyl. And then also you have these drinks, these THC drinks that have marijuana in it. So one of the things we at state police is we change what the intoxicant is at these trials for what they've seen on the street. Again, from the troopers have told me, the intoxications for alcohol is way down. Now it's in the 60%. With these younger people that are getting arrested, it's all these other types of things. And they're so acceptable. So to me, again, having a background in law enforcement, I look forward to trying to head that off at the path. This first and second offense are misdemeanors. They get to a third, now you're at the district court level. Now you're looking at mandatory minimums, Department of Corrections. So to me, I'm excited about the opportunity to try to help these, especially young people. There are great programs to get them involved in, either through some type of diversion or some type of probation, to hopefully try to figure out what their issue may be. If they have a substance abuse issue or it's a mental health issue. Because again, we never want to get to that point. This is what I stress to the high school students. Is I tell them, you can get a first offense DWI, which is a misdemeanor. But if you have a death involved or a serious bodily injury, you're going to prison. And all of a sudden, that change in circumstances is a felony. Yes, ma'am. And we actually make a part of that. We make that a condition of the trial. And one of the fact scenarios is students are leaving a party after the prom. You have the two cars. There's an intersectional collision. And one of the students just basically texts mom and says, on my way. So they're not only impaired, but texting mom about huge. And the troopers really do a good job, because I consider them the experts on this, on talking about the reaction times, just for you to look down at your cell phone, send that, and it's even OMW, as simple as on my way, and look back up, too late. Because if you have somebody that's crossing your path, that ran a red light, or whatever, or stops in front of you, it's too late. But again, if that impairment's there, and there's a serious bodily injury or a death, it changes everything. Question is me.
I understand that we're always hard talking to youth about their addictions and their all and getting in trouble with all of it. But I know huge flock of adult friends who are impaired. And it's through their doctor.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up.
Driving me insane. More of them on the road. Children driving.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because I can tell you right now, some of the toughest cases to prosecute are non-alcohol related. Okay, so a person gets stopped for a DWI, they do a field sobriety test. The very next step is they bring them to the station and they do a breathalyzer. The breathalyzer only tests alcohol. So first of all, if they still think the impairment's there because they failed to field sobriety test, the next step is urine or blood. And if they refuse it, they'll get a warrant. But my point is, they don't get that back from the state police crime lab until 2 months. So you really don't know. Now, when it comes back, and it's a big misconception, Just because it's a prescription drug, or just because you have a medical marijuana card, it doesn't mean you can't be impaired from driving. You can be.
People who have done this for so long.
I agree.
that They can get away with it and they look.
I understand. Well, you know what happens with any type of drugs. You build a tolerance. You build a tolerance. You know, and they talked about that back when, you know, Vicodin was a problem. Correct.
Pharmacies, building the, but let us all know.
And, well, and I will say this, you know, I started practicing 27 years ago, and even in my police days. So now they have this database. They used to do that doctor shopping, and they used to do the pharmacy shopping. And he could tell you, you know, you can't go to Walgreens in Metairie and then copy that prescription and go to Walgreens in Chalmette. It's going to be in a state system, and they're going to catch it. So it is a lot better. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So I recently educated myself on this. It looks like alcohol. It comes into a bottle. It looks like liquor, and it's marijuana. I don't understand it, but it's alcohol. So does alcohol. And the person, Willie Nelson's thing, right? Okay. And the person who was telling me about it says that it doesn't, you don't test positive for anything if you take a sip of it. And it only takes, I mean, a tiny, tiny, tiny sip and you're completely impaired. It doesn't take that whole bottle. How do you test that if it doesn't show up?
And that's the unfortunate part about an investigation of a law enforcement officer with DWI. They can only test for alcohol at the time.
Right.
So yeah, and that's one of the exhibits we started using in these mock trials. I forget the name of it, it's like 9 degrees or something, 9 Celsius or something like that, but it's all THC. There's no alcohol.
That's the,
So they can drink 10 of those.
yeah,
It's gonna blow zero,
Right.
zero, zero.
that's what I was told, right.
But unfortunately, again, they're gonna do
They're
a blood draw,
impaired.
and they're gonna arrest them. They're not gonna let you back on the street. Because they're, you know, a police officer is concerned about liability. You let that person out and then something happens right at the road. But it just takes time for them to get that back. And then when it gets to the prosecution standpoint, as you said earlier, they have to make that decision if they feel like there's sufficient evidence to do it. But that's where it gets so technical. So, yeah, to me, that's why I'm excited about this opportunity. Because of all of my litigation practice, you start dealing with situations like, now you have to get an expert on the stand. You have to clear them as an expert before they can testify. You can't just say, oh yeah, well, I received this blood draw from state police and it was positive for this. Okay, but what's your background? You know, so those types of things need to be handled by a judge. And I will say this particular court, there are no jurors. No jurors. Everything has to be handled by a judge. And that's across the state of Louisiana and our courts of limited jurisdiction. So to me, it's so much more important to have a judge who has the background, the knowledge, and experience to handle these types of cases.
You're gonna be busy.
I will be. This court, I'll leave you with this, and just give you some perspective. Jefferson Parish is one of the largest parishes in the state of Louisiana. So on average, they take in 3,500 criminal cases a year for 2 judges. And 1,000 of those are first and second offense. Wow. So much more than civil cases. So obviously, it's the primary focus for this particular court. Good luck. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right, and we appreciate you coming here and speaking to us. And if you're in Jefferson Parish and you vote, we'll have a couple of other candidates next month. And then you can determine who you think. You can also contact him and he will speak to you privately, right? Absolutely contact him. If you have any other questions, you know, please come up to him afterwards and he'll be glad to speak with you. Thank you so much. All right. You know what? We're going to pull up Legislative Liaison Susie LeBrie. Susie, we welcome you. You got a few minutes to catch us up. What's going on? Yes, ma'am. It's an honor to have you here. We love you, Susie. We thank you for all of your information.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Okay. This speech I'm making is going to be of a different angle. I'm not going to be presenting any bills since we're not in session, but I have some complaints that y'all need to know about and that we need to correct.
So this is general. This session was one of the hardest sessions that we have ever had. And I'm getting this not only from myself, but from lobbyists and all the legislators and staff members. Number one, too many bills being filed. I think there was like 2,000 bills filed. Okay, number two, the bills are vague. They're hard to read. Even lawyers come to me and complain about the bills being vague. Number three, the clock, abuse of the clock. They wait to the last minute to file these bills, and speeding. And speeding is the next one. For 5 or 4. Everything is fast. It's so fast you don't know it's in the past. The legislators' lives are being threatened. Phone calls are ringing off the hook. We had to beef up security. It's really bad because we're getting death threats. Also, nothing. We have to have order when you go into the Capitol. You're disorderly, you can get thrown out. And this is why we have to check in Thursday afternoon. We have to wait 2 or 3 hours to get into the room to be cleared when we were working on the mats. And security is going to take up a lot of time. And you got to be known at the Capitol. The next number, we don't have enough in our advocacy to get people to properly represent ourselves and for us to represent you. We need to get bills filed in an orderly fashion. Next number is we are no longer able to grade. I used to grade the whole legislature by committee, by senate, and J.C. Harmon has had the struggle of time how to grade. Woody Jenkins, Chris Alexander, and many other people that grade the legislators. We can grade the House, but we cannot grade the Senate. You know why? You can't grade a garbage can because if you want a bill killed, you send it to the Senate. Senite, Senate. And we need new presidents and new speakers and new chairmen all together. Now, the next one, lack of sunshine and transparency. How can you have sunshine and transparency when you have bills that go faster than light? That's not sunshine, So we need to be alert as to how our legislators are doing. And one more thing I could say about every action counts. You know how we say one vote makes a difference? Well, one action makes a difference. Y'all are too busy. You got grandchildren to take care of children and other issues to run a home. You have to go to work. You got to run the country. But you can do one thing, and that you do not realize that one thing makes a difference because you add it up. If you go binary arithmetic, 20 levels high, 20 people, you could get 1 million contacts hitting the state capitol. These are all complaints. Also, the Capitol's a desert. You have any eating and drinking? Like my coffee? Drink and eat before you come to the Capitol. You do not have time to eat at the Capitol. There are no coffee breaks, no lunch breaks. I don't appreciate this because people need to be fed. The lobbyists feed legislators back here in the green room, but people need to eat. And there are times when legislators don't have time to eat. I had to feed Kathy Edmondson a few times because there's no time. They clog that clock, traffic jams. Nobody can pay attention. I suffered from shutdown listening about insurance with Tim on my right and Jeff behind me. So it's too much going on for a mind to pay attention to. And the good news, that legislative.gov now, you could get record votes on the Senate committee nowadays. So any questions before I go? Connie?
That they bring a bill at the last minute, that they go so quickly.
House and Governmental Affairs, the Speaker and the President in the House and Governmental Affairs and Senate and Governmental Affairs.
So it can change willy-nilly then.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We need to get reform in the legislative process. And I want to remind you, the legislators are the only ones that writes the bill, not courts, not judges, not presidents, and governors. Legislature runs to write the bills. The Bureau, the Governor Bureau executes what's passed, and the judges in the court interprets it. It's simple as that. All right? Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Susie, appreciate it. I kind of have a little bit of an issue with some of that too, because I remember 2021, in a particular case that I was involved in, they changed the laws at the last second. What is that? The recusal laws for a judge to recuse himself. It used to be 1 year, and then they changed it to 30 days, right in the middle of a child trafficking case. And that particular judge refused to recuse himself. And then the attorney who was hired to defend the person who was being, defamed, defamation character, that person was not allowed, that person's attorney filed a recusal within I think it'd been around for 50 years, the recusal law, for 1 year. So anybody who filed recusals knew that you had 1 year to file a recusal, and then they changed it in the House to 30 days. So the judges weren't, refused to recuse themselves. And then this is where you have issues within the judicial system, because there's like this whole clandestine espionage situation going on. They came from the House, right? They don't have to recuse themselves. So the judges, it was ran up to the Supreme Court, and the judges said that, we have to rule according to the laws on the books. So they knew to change it. So there is some nefarious things going on, and now all of that has to be cleaned up, right? There's a lot of tricky ways to manipulate the system. And we, the people, the voters, and the citizens need to be more engaged. It can't just be a handful of people always engaged. We need more people to be engaged. We have to get more involved, right? The Women's Republican Club in New Orleans, we try to go to that House and that Senate as often as we can. I know I do. Not as much as Susie. She lives there. Thank God the Lord provided her a residency near, so she could be our legislative liaison. And LA CAG, we appreciate everything that Christopher Alexander is doing. Thank God for these people, right? But we need more citizens involved. Absolutely. And so, and it's not easy being the person opposing what they're doing. I can tell you that. The one in the room who's giving the opposition is usually the villain, but I just made a pose. If you're gonna paint me as a villain, I might as well pose, right? Because that's really where it's at now. If I'm gonna be painted as a villain, I'm gonna pose as a villain, but I'm still showing up, and I'm still gonna speak against whatever nefarious things that y'all are doing. So we hope that y'all join us this next legislative session. We thank both of our speakers for joining us here at Louisiana Women's Republican Club in New Orleans. Thank you, Susie LeBrie. Let's see, we have our minutes of the meeting. Recording Secretary Linda Weinmanson will come up real quick.
Yes, even though we didn't have a lot of speakers last time, great meeting. And your minutes of the meeting are there. We just need approval. Does anybody motion to approve? And a second? And we have a second and a third. So yes, and if you have any questions about that, we hope to have Albert Guillory here, but he wasn't able to be here, but he gave us a nice video. He's a great man. If you know anybody, and what's the parish? I'm sorry, Opelousas. He's running for mayor. He's a terrific man. Good man. So, with the minutes approved, I'll hand it over to Martha.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And then we have August birthdays. Any August birthdays? You have an August birthday? Connie, Susie, Terry. Come on up. Yes, we have August birthday. You better come on up. We have a nice little surprise for the August birthdays. If you would, just stay right where you are. August birthday, just stay right where you are. You can. Terry, come on up. This is where,
You and I are the one, you and I.
this is where I step up.
One and a few and a three. This is a fun time to gather round. No better reason to be found. This is your birthday, we'll touch your home. 'Cause we're so glad that you were born.
Great birthday, graduation. Oh, happy birthday. Awesome. Great job, ladies. Thank you.
Stina, you were privately serenaded here at the Women's Republican Club, and Bonnie wrote that song.
Today's Mike's birthday.
Well, you can send that to Mike as well. Thank you so much. And then the 50-50 raffle, we're gonna go ahead and pull that. And, Terry, what are announcements are next month? Our next meeting is what date? The 20? Can someone pull up the third Friday? Linda Wymerson.
Yeah.
You make sure you get it right.
That would be the 18th of September.
18th, that's correct. September 18th, it's a Friday. Put that in your calendar. September 18th, we'll be right back here at Vincent's Italian Restaurant. We're going to pull the 50-50.
Yeah.
That'll come to you.